Today we're going to end this series of the Bible Ladies Brunch Bunch by talking about the woman at the well. She is pretty awesome. Today in Bible Ladies Brunch Bunch, we're ending this particular series with the story of the woman at the well. It's a famous one and one you've probably heard. I'm also going to share a recipe for a simple brunch charcuterie board. I'll see you in a minute. Hello my friends, I hope your day is going swimmingly. Hope things are good where you are. It is chilly here, but that is okay because I've got all this fuzzy socks, stretchy pants, and hot cups of tea. All that I need, and things are good. So we are going to end this particular series of Women in the Bible. We will be starting something new, so stay tuned for that. I believe we're going to have a couple of special videos, and then we're going to go to another Bible series. This kind of will fall also into our holiday series, so I hope you will stay tuned for that. As always, if you want to read the following blog post, the accompanying blog post that goes with this video, it's in the description box below, and there are plenty of good goodies there. There's some printable Bible study sheets. There is a scripture printable appropriate for this lesson, and also the the recipe page for the video, and in just a little bit we're going to watch. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Samaritan woman. Not the Samaritan woman. Yes, we are going to talk about the Samaritan woman, the woman at the well. And for this particular, this last study that we're going to do, I'm going to actually read out of my NIV, Life in the Spirit Study Bible. And we're going to talk just about what happened, the experiences there, and a little bit about living water. And so if you want to turn with me, I'm going to be in John chapter 4, and we're going to start at verse. I am really winning tonight with today with my my pronunciation. So we're in John chapter 4, and we're going to start at verse 1. The Pharisees heard that Jesus was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, and although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized but his disciples, when the Lord learned of this, he left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now why do you think he went back? Well, they were causing trouble, and it was not time for him to get in that kind of trouble, so he went back. Now he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar. My wonderful pronunciation again. Near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God, who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons, his flocks, and his herds?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks from this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go and call your husband and come back." I have no husband, she replied. Jesus said to her, you are right when you say that you have no husband. If the fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. Sir, the woman said, I can see that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. Jesus declared, believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain or in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, and now has come, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. There we go. The woman said, I know that the Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus declared, I who speak to you am he. Just then his disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman. But no one asked, what do you want, or why are you talking with her? Then, leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Christ? They came out of the town and made their way toward him. Meanwhile, his disciples urged him, Rabbi, eat something. But he said to them, I have food to eat that you know nothing about. Then his disciples said to each other, could someone have brought him food? My food, said Jesus, is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Do you not say 4 months more and then the harvest? I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for harvest. Even now the reaper draws his wages, and even now he has harvests the crop for eternal life, so that the sower and the reaper may be glad together. Thus the saying, one sows and another reaps, is true. I sent you to reap that you have not worked for. Others have done the hard work, and you have reaped the benefits of their labor. Many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I did. So when the Samaritans came to him, they urged him to stay with them, and he stayed 2 days. And because of his words, many more became believers. They said to the woman, we no longer believe just because of what you said. We now have heard for ourselves, and we know that this man is really the Savior of the world. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about the story itself. We just, on the front of the story, from what we can read, we know that Jesus and his disciples are traveling through. The Pharisees were getting a little agitated, and we know was not quite time for Jesus to reveal himself necessarily and sacrifice himself. And so he hit the road, and he was going to go back to Galilee, but he traveled through Samaria. And what was significant about this was the Jews did normally not travel through Samaria. They made their way around Samaria. And so he did this, and they reached this part of, it used to be a great big city, a temple on top of this mountain, and the parts of the city were destroyed. The temple was destroyed, but this little village remained. And when this woman comes down to gather her water, it's in the heat of the day, we see, and she is not with other women. Usually this was it's like when, one lady needs to go to the bathroom, we go in herds from the dinner table or something. We all got to go at the ladies' conference. That wasn't this situation. Most of the women would come to the well together. It would be a time of fellowship. It'd be a source of encouragement for one another. The younger women would lift up the jars, because keep in mind, this was not a well as even we consider grandma and grandpa's well. Of course, my grandparents probably when they were younger might have had wells, but not, of course, when they were older. We've kind of passed some of those generations. But I don't know if you've ever seen an old spigot, old pump out by an old house. And it wasn't even that convenient. The wells were just generally in a not a basement, a basin, and the women would have to walk down with their big earthen jars. And so they would go down there and gather water and take it back up to their homes. So they would do this during cooler parts of the day. They do it as a kind of form of socialization, some fellowship. And this woman was by herself. She did not have anyone younger there with her. She did not have any sorts of fellowship. So here she comes to the well and she sees this man, and somehow she recognizes him as a Jew. And so when he asked her for a drink, she's like, what would a Jew, want with a woman like me, a Samaritan? Now, we're going to talk about, there had been a long-running conflict between Jews and Samaritans. Samaria had been the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel during the period of the divided kingdom. And in 721 BC, Assyria conquered Israel and sent most of its people to live in Assyria. And the Assyrians replaced the original people with 5 alien tribes who resettled the areas. And eventually, many of the original population returned and intermarried with these. When we're talking about aliens, we're not talking about ET. We're talking about people who were not the Hebrews. They were not Hebrews. And by the time of Jesus, Jews thought that the people who lived in Samaria were not true descendants of the great Jewish ancestors, and their true religion was not true Judaism, but a mixture of beliefs, which it probably was. So Jesus comes in here, and he comes through Samaria, and he is not worried, obviously, about tainting himself with the contact of a Samaritan. And remember, these were pretty despised group of people among the Jews and also the Romans. Jesus began to talk to the woman about living water, and when she asked him, so his conversation turns into the water that you can drink that will never cause you thirst, will never make you thirsty again. And of course, I don't know, obviously we can see in the rest of the passage that her mind, it switched to spiritual things after a while. But initially, I'm sure she thought, boy, if I would never have to go down to this well and lug up the water again, tell me about it. What's going on here? Obviously, there was something in her that could see in this man she was talking about that there had to be something in her spirit. There had to be a leading and a intervention going on, that she could sense something was happening here. So Jesus talks to her about this living water, and so she asks for some of this, and then Jesus says, well, get your husband. And of course the truth comes out. She did not have one. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you are living with is not your husband. Of course, there could have been a lot of things happen in there. We don't know if she had been disposed of, her previous husbands had died or disposed of her. That was common in some of these cultures, if the women were barren or if he just wished to set her aside. She understood his meaning, and she understood also that he was also speaking in a way that she understood as a Samaritan. And the idea of worship really worried her. Why are you talking to me? You Jews say you worship in Jerusalem, we worship over here. Another cattail. And Jesus says, I don't care, there's a day coming, it doesn't make any difference where you worship. You can go worship out in the fields, you can go worship, down here right by the well. It does not matter. You do not have to take your worship to a sacred place, because, it's here. The time is here, and I am here. And this is so interesting because he is the only, I think one of the few people that he actually revealed himself to as the Messiah. And I think that's pretty special. He probably saw the earnestness in her And of course we see what is going to happen. She's going to reach her city, her village, for Christ. And excuse me, kitty. Excuse me. So so Jesus tells her, that the Messiah has returned and that I am he. Well, then the disciples show up and he is still, they're kind of surprised that, what's going on? They asked him if he's hungry, and he says, no, I'm not hungry. And said, well, somebody feed you. So he again talks about that thirsty, that hunger. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But then she leaves the water jar. The woman had left the water jar, and she goes into the village and she says, come see a man who has told me all things. And so she reached her village, and we know that from the scriptures that many came to believe, just not even on her word alone, but on the fact that they came to hear him themselves. And that is remarkable. I think when it comes to hungering and thirsting, I don't know about you, there are some things that I cannot, if I start, I cannot get enough of. If I eat a few potato chips, I'm just like craving more. It's like the ever-ending, I don't know if it's the salt that wants you to the crunch. I don't know. There's some foods that leave you constantly wanting more. That's why I don't purchase chips in my house. I know if you eat Chinese food, a few hours later you're thinking, I don't feel very full. There are some things that leave you thirsty and hungry for more. And there's also things that we feel the cat is scratching. Everything's moving. There's some things in our lives that we fill up. We fill up with activities, with vices, so to say. We fill trying relationships, especially unhealthy relationships, because we're trying to fill something in our heart. Even if we know God, even if we have a relationship with Jesus, sometimes it is hard for us to comprehend that he really should be all we need. So we start filling our lives and our time with things that will never replace a relationship with Jesus Christ. That will never replace the dependency that we need on him. And this woman, she was ready. She was tired of the probably ostracization, the hurts and the suffering and the all the things in life. And obviously she was an intelligent woman, and Jesus knew exactly who to go to and to reach this village for God, for himself. And I think that is incredible. I think that no matter what we've done, no matter, how many strikes we think we have against us, God is looking for that openness. God is looking for that, she didn't say, he's talking about go get your husband. She goes, oh, well, okay, I'll be right back. She didn't hide behind that. She just laid it all out there for him, and he was able to see into her soul. I know God knows everything about me. Okay. God knows all my deep, dark, dusty places. But it's when I let him shine the light on those things. When I'm honest with myself, when I'm honest with him, it's when he can really do the work in my life. And I want you to think about that, about never being thirsty or hungry again. We've got to fill our lives up with that living water, with that word, with his delight. And that is why I encourage you on this very last episode of the Bible Ladies Brunch Bunch, at least for now. As I said, this concludes our series for the women of the Bible, but we'll be back talking about some fun things. But I thought this was a perfect lady to end on, that she encompasses all of us. There's things that we can get out of her story that can touch all of us and that we all can glean from and understand and learn. And that is we need to depend on him. We need the living water, and we need to let him know all. We need to be honest and broken before the Lord. And I pray that that is your desire. I pray that that is your testimony. I pray that you can learn to tell your story. Come see a man who knows all things, and that can become your witness as well. I'm going to share with you the simple brunch charcuterie board. I always assume I'm saying that name quite right. I'm not going to talk about this in the video, but for those of us who have been a little longer, around a little bit longer, we understand the appeal of the meat and cheese tray, the veggie tray, the fruit tray. This one kind of encompasses a little bit of everything, and you can have so many variations. I'm going to try and do one around the holidays as well, but this one is specifically for our brunch dishes that we've been doing. I also wanted to make sure that there will be a completed cookbook with all the recipes together. There will be a completed cookbook on the blog post if you want to check that out. That way you can just print off all the recipes together, and you can have that just in case you need it, because you never know when you're going to have to whip up something special. So go check that out, and I will see you in a minute, my friends. Today I'm going to share with you this simple brunch charcuterie board. Now this is fall for the time I'm making this, so you can see by the decorations. I've kind of went for that theme. This is so simple. You can make it as easy, as simple as you'd like to. This is the only dish I'm actually going to cook. Now I'm going to cook the bacon, but this is the only thing that's a little bit more involved, and you can see it involves just stuffing a piece of ham, lunch meat ham, into a muffin pan. I'm then simply going to put some cheese, sprinkle some cheese down in the bottom of that, and crack an egg into it. Now this, I probably could have made the cups just a little bit bigger by simply adding 2 pieces of ham, kind of cross stuffing them, if you will. But this is what I'm going to do. Just put a little cheese down there. At the bottom, you can use any kind you want to. You can even do it at the top, but this is how I did it, because you'll see in a minute the egg at the top really makes a nice little, it's an extra really cool, it's pretty, let's just put it that way. I had a hard time expressing myself. Now what I will say is you can see I have 4 eggs here. I needed 6, and I used 2 jumbo eggs in the final muffin cups, because that's what I just got at the store. I would say that the more medium-sized to larger eggs would be better, because the jumbo eggs really fill up this pan. Unless you're going to add a little more ham, this is how I'd make this. Put a little salt and pepper, and this is some wild garlic from my parents' house, and so $3.75 for about 10 to 15 minutes. Keep a check on them. You'll see them at the end of this. Right now I'm going to make some orange juice. Now you don't have to do this. You can make any kind of drink you would like to serve along your charcuterie board. This is a hack I use when I make any kind of frozen lemonades, any kind of lemonades or orange juice. I buy the even the powdered kind sometimes, and I just simply cut up some fruit, whatever fruit I want to, and I put it in the glass jar or serving pitcher. I'm also going to add a little bit of mint to this as well. I did have some rather moldy looking raspberries, but I abstained. I'm sure you're glad to know that. And I also put my orange juice, my frozen orange juice, in the refrigerator overnight, so it would be not frozen. It just makes it easier that way. And then I can put the orange juice into the refrigerator to let it chill. So that's how you do it. If you've got people who need sugar-free, use one of the Crystal Light packets and do the same thing. Now I've already cut up this clementine. I'm going to just set it off to the side. It goes on the charcuterie board itself. And I'm going to get the little condiments ready for the board. You can make all these. You can just buy all of them. basically it's in the presentation. As I said, you can make it as simple or complicated as yourself. I don't know what I'm talking about today. So I've just got some odds and ends of little vintage dishes that I have. Clean up my mess there. And I'm going to fill them with a few things. I have purchased some pumpkin cream cheese from the grocery store. I did a pickup and that was super simple, but you can also just use cream cheese. Really, the kinds of bread you'll see that I use for this brunch board is I'm using waffles and I'm using bagels. So it just depends on what kind of breads you're going to be putting into it. As a rule of thumb, for this particular recipe, I'm using 2 to 3 proteins, 2 to 3 breads, and 2 to 3 fruits. So this, I'm just going to pop it in there. Now, I like my syrup warm, but my boys will care little. They will care little. So I'm putting some syrup in this little pour pitcher. It's actually a creamer. And then I'm going to put some pumpkin butter, not the pumpkin butter. I'm going to use the apple butter that's from my parents' farm. This is all natural. They didn't use hardly any sweeteners if they did at all. So that's homemade, but I didn't make it, so it doesn't count. And I'm going to fill the other one up with just this pumpkin cream cheese. I will tell you that right now Aldi has the same thing for quite a bit cheaper than the one I got from my Walmart pickup order. And I don't know why I put cinnamon in the bottom of that. I just was being happy with the cinnamon. I like to garnish things though, and cinnamon is a really good way to garnish. I put a little bit on apple butter, and I'm also going to put a little bit on the cream cheese. If you're feeding a big group, you obviously will need larger board. You're going to see my board in a minute. My board is actually from my parents' farm. It's something my dad made me last year for Christmas. I have it on this island all the time. I think it's meant to be a cutting board, but I haven't wanted to use it as a cutting board. I've used it for everything else. And it is what I'm using my charcuterie board with. You can use a platter, a tray, a basket, but this particular board is pretty special. Let's see in a minute. I'm going ahead and finding my utensils right now. When you are doing something like this, in fact, when you're entertaining, it's always best to, find as you go or find ahead of time so you're not last minute at the sink trying to scrounge up what you need. So I'm using a variety. I have a little bitty teaspoon there, and then I've got a butter knife thing there for the cream cheese so that it can be smeared easily. And so that's done. Marking off my list. Always good to make a list whenever you're doing these kinds of projects. That way you can really make things special and you don't leave anything out. Now this is a little hack that you might enjoy doing. This is a little candy mold that actually was from the Dollar Tree last year, and I'd softened my butter a couple of days ago. I mean, you don't have to do it, you can put it in the freezer and just let it sit for a couple of hours. And I put my butter into the little candy mold, and there I have some little butter pats. Now I'm going to start setting up this charcuterie board, and you see I have my waffles. This is just frozen waffles I put in the toaster. That is all I did with these, my friends. And you can go all out and you can make them. You can make some special ones. As I said, this is a simple one. And here we go. We have some multigrain bagels that I'm just going to set out here. I originally thought I was going to do all little mini things. And really the mini things are a little more pricier than the bigger things. And, I just went with it. So this is literally the bacon I made in the oven, and those are the brown and serve sausage links that I put in the microwave. I know they say the best way to do those is on the skillet top, but we're talking easy here. Okay, it's enough that I put my butter in little pumpkin molds, right? I'm messing with that sausage. It's all about the presentation. Okay, now when my egg cups are done, you can see how beautiful those are. I'm only going to put 3 out right now because there's just the 3 of us today, and I want to make sure I have room for some of my fruit. I have pears, I have apples, and I wanted to kind of do more of a fall fruit theme, but really what I was going for was easy. And I didn't want to have to slice my apples and my pears and, you know, sprinkle them with a little lemon juice or whatever we do. So this is super simple. Super, super simple. Kind of arranging the clementine good grief, slices out, and I've washed my blueberries. I'm going to put my blueberries in spots. They're wonderful for, you know, sprinkling over those pancakes. I will suggest, if you're doing this for a group of people, make sure you have those choices like the fruit and the protein sources and not simply just bread. And of course you can theme these however you want. You can make a waffle themed one where everything is, you know, waffle toppings or biscuits, and however you want to do it. But because I'm always fixing for a different group of people, a wide variety of groups who have different dietary needs, I try and make sure I include things that are healthier to eat. So there you have it. This is how I've set the table up. I pulled a few things from my living room. You can see I've put the little dishes of stuff all the way back. My candlelight here, and I set the orange juice on a cake platter just because I liked the way it looked. Now you can see the junk that I have in my living room right now. I have some chargers over there. Next week I'm going to get out actually a fall tablescape, so be looking out for that on my channel. We've got some apple butter. We've got all the good things ready for my family to enjoy. So I hope you would enjoy this and it's given you some inspiration. As I said, you can make these as themed or easy or fun as you need to. I hope you enjoyed that. That was fun to do, and that was sure a treat. That's really, really a treat. Of course, you can, as I said, you can make it as simple or as complex, as you need to. I hope that you stick around and be looking out for the next couple of special videos that we have, and then we will be starting a brand new series very shortly. So, my friends, I hope that you have a beautiful day. I hope you do beautiful things, that you hug your people, you breathe in, breathe out. You're doing just fine. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.